Hello everyone, welcome to unit number 6 in the day trading with volume profile and order flow course. So in today's chapter we are going to start diving into what exactly is volume profile. We're going to go over the definition, what all the components and the elements that make volume profile up are, and how we can use those in our trading. So first of all, let's just define it. So volume profile is a horizontal histogram that measures volumes on the price axis. So that means the X or the Y axis or the vertical axis of charts. So on the right side. So unlike traditional volumes that we are used to using on the bottom of charts that measure the trading activity for X period of time, volume profile measures the buying and selling volume based on price. So volume profile allows any trader to evaluate the market context to keep track of the never-ending auction process. That's what a market is at the end of the day, is just a constant negotiation process to find equilibrium agreement via the accumulation of transactions at certain levels and the ones that were perceived too cheap or too expensive, where there was no really a lot of volume. Because obviously where we accumulate the most volume is when there's a constant back and forth between buyers and sellers, where there's price interest, so what's considered fair prices. The art of reading volume profile is all about studying the anatomy of the market auctions. So let's just give this a little moment to load the image here. So we are going to go over the anatomy. Okay, it's right here. So the volume profile, as you can see, we have this chart here, and this could be, any time frame, any kind of chart. It can be ticks, time based, etc. So basically the volume profile, as you can see, this is a fixed range, meaning I just put a volume profile from this dotted line here to this one over here. And so we got, first of all, everything here. This is what we would call the profile. So this is volumes plotted on the vertical axis here. And as you can see in the areas, let me bring up my drawing tool here just to help us annotate things on the chart. I'll put a orange so we can see it. So basically the entire area where we have all the price action that we've covered from here down to this level where this ends, this is the whole profile. And so this is measuring the entire buying and selling activity for this period. And you can see, like we were saying, how in this case where we have a lot of price going back and forth in certain areas, we have a longer profile. And then in areas, for example, here where we just had a quick move down, there's not a lot of volumes here because price spent very little time here. It's mostly a one-way auction of just sellers hitting the market and bringing it down. So we did not have a lot of activity here. And now on the volume profile, we have two elements, or one main element, which would be what we call the value area. So the value area of a profile, it's going to be, some programs put it as 70%, the standard. I like to use the 68%. So that means that this value area, in this case here, and again, all this colors and everything, this is all customizable. All the platforms are going to let you put whatever colors you want. This is just the random colors I had for this example. So basically this value area means that from this entire profile that we're measuring from here to here, this whole area, 68% of all the volume that was traded in this whole down move here was consolidated in this gray area over here. So that means that the other 32%, it's this light blue areas that are here. So obviously you can see how we accumulate the most volume in the value area where we have the most action. And over here you can see, if you're familiar with statistics, this is a basic bell curve distribution where we have a mean and then we have deviations of that mean. And so we can see here pretty much this 68% comes from this, where basically we're taking one standard deviation for each side. So this together will be 68%. So that's where the 68% comes from when we're calculating volumes for the value area. And now on this volume profile, these areas where we have the limit where the value area ends, on the bottom would be what we would call value area low. So this line here, and I don't have it, it's not plotted in here. This is TradingView, and TradingView doesn't give you the ability to plot a line on them, but as you can, we're going to see later on Sierra chart, I always have this so that it plots a line coming out of these value areas, because this tend to be very important support and resistance levels. So I always want to be aware of where the value area high level is and where the value area low level is. And then the final component of the profile that we have, it's what we call point of control. So the point of control, it's basically going to be from the entire range that we're measuring the profile. It's going to be the price level, because if we plot this here, all this is going to be assigned to a certain price. This price level over here, this orange line, it's basically the place, the spot on the whole profile with the maximum transacted volume. So that means from this whole area, this was the level where buyers and sellers were most in agreement as far as prices, and these areas tend to act as magnets, and price just keeps sort of price keeps getting attracted to the point of control areas. And as you can see later, when we show like live charts and stuff, you're gonna see how obviously this whole thing is developing. Like when the day starts, the volume profile is gonna be like only here. Once we broke out here, then you can see how we started building. And probably when we started, the point of control was like here. Then when we broke down and started building, it probably shifted like right around here. Then when we came down and started building more volumes here, then we have the whole shift down to the bottom where we have the value area and the point of control. So, you know, the volume profiles are just constantly adjusting and changing. They're very dynamic. And of course, once we, for example, if we're looking at a session profile, once the session's over, then the profile is just going to stay static, and then that's when we'll look back on it, and I'll show you all the strategies that I use for using past profiles, etc. Okay, but let's just keep going over the basic concepts of it. Let's give this a chance to load the next image. Now we're going to talk specifically on the profile. There's two elements here. Some profiles, like the one I have here, this is a screenshot of Forex Euro Dollar 1 hour in TradingView, and this is a I'll go over the types of profiles soon, but this is a visible range profile, meaning this is just a profile that will just adapt to whatever I have on the screen at the time. I don't have the value area highlighted in this, because when I use longer term profiles like this on the side of my charts, my main concern is just looking at the shapes of these profiles. And so as we can see here, these areas that we have here, when we have an accumulation of volumes and we see the profile sticking out like this is what we call a high volume node. Like the name implies, that means that it is a node that is composed of high volumes, and that's why it's very prominent on the chart. And you can see this whole area that it covers had a lot of trading activity in it, so that's why this is sticking out the most. And then for each one of these, for example, then this will be the point of control for this high volume node, which is the point that's sticking out the most. This is another high volume node, but just of a smaller degree, and we have the point of control of this one here. We have another smaller one here with its own point of control, etc. And then these areas that I mark with an X, these are low volume nodes. So these are the areas, like I said, where we have just a cut in the volume profile. This is areas where the volumes drop, and if you look at these areas, they always coincide with places where we have support and resistance, where we have rejections of prices. So anytime you see volumes diminishing on the profile, that means those are areas where if price would go back to that area, we can expect some kind of rejection. Okay, so, and the final, another element that I'm going to talk about, just like we talked about the points of control for every, in every high volume node. Okay, so now this is a screenshot of Sierra charts. And so here you can see, as I was telling you in Sierra charts, how we have each one of these is one session. So this is 9:30 a.m. This is 5 p.m. So this is basically what we were talking about. This is what we call RTH. This is regular trading hours. This is the hours of the stock market as well. And so you can see here we have this profile, which is very balanced. This was a very balanced day. Price was just range bound. And we have our point of control, value area high, value area low. This, you can see I have the value area as like a darker shade of gray. This purple line, this is the VWAP, which I'm going to talk about this more in the order flow course, so we're not going to concern ourselves too much. But naked points of control are also a very important thing to keep track of. And what they are is basically when you have, in this case, I have on Sierra chart, and this is how I'm going to teach you all in this course, where I have a new profile for every trading session. So one is for extended trading hours, and then regular trading hours, and then again extended trading hours. So basically you got two profiles for every trading day. And so in this example here, you can see this profile, how we started at the bottom, end of the day we pushed up, and usually right at the close of the day there's a lot of volume transacted, and you can see how the point of control just shifted up towards the end of the day. Even though we had all this action down here at the beginning of the day, this right here, basically on the last hour of trading, we accumulated a lot of volumes and we shifted the point of control up. And so then when we opened on the next session, we moved down. So now the point where the point of control for this session finished, this is what we call a naked point of control, and we can set it up on our platforms like I have here. So it extends it. So then in the future, you have this as reference. So basically, you know, this is an untested point of control. Like for example, here, we had a point of control here, which when we opened here, this was a naked point of control, but then we intercepted it here. So then this just turns off. But this one, when we fell down, this just left a naked point of control that we did not touch at all during the market hours. And then the next session, the next day, when we open for the Asia session at 6 p.m. Eastern, we can see markets just shot up. And in this case, we touched the naked point of control from the previous extended trading hours and just rejected right off of it. That doesn't mean we don't always just reject automatically out of every naked point of control, but it is always very important to keep an eye on where we had all the point of controls closing for the last sessions, because like we said, basically the point of control is telling us where we had the largest amount of volumes for that session. Okay, so let's talk about the different ways that we can draw volume profiles. So we got 4 basic types. We have session volume profiles, which is like the one I just showed you. So this shows a separate profile for each trading day, or in the case of futures like I had before, it can be divided into the 2 sessions. So extended trading hours and the regular trading hours, so basically the stock market hours. Then we have fixed range profiles, which is like the first example I showed you from TradingView, where you just basically delineate a starting date and time and an ending date and time, and you'll just make a profile for that specific range. Then we have periodic profiles, where basically you have a profile that just repeats itself every day, every week, every month. After every set amount of time, a new profile is going to form. And then finally, the one I was talking about before, the visible range, which is just a dynamic volume profile that is going to be changing based on the bars or candlesticks that are on the main screen at that moment. Okay, now I got some screenshots here out of like each type of this profiles. So first on the daily, this is taken from TradingView. Like I said, TradingView has its limitations. One of the main things that I wish they had that they don't is the ability to split the daily profile between the 2 sessions. So you can see here, basically these are profiles starting at 6 p.m. Eastern until 5 p.m. Eastern the next day for the close of the regular trading hours. And then we begin a new one again at 6 p.m. Eastern all the way to 5 p.m., etc. So this is basically profiles that cover an entire futures trading day. Then we have what I was showing you before, what are the session profiles. And in this case, we got daily profiles, but we do have them split up into their 2 separate sessions. So we can see here how we have this profile, which started at 6 p.m. Eastern time. This is a 5-minute chart of the E-mini ES. And so this is 6 p.m. Eastern. We start a profile for the extended trading hours, and then right at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, at the start of the regular session, a new profile forms. And then over here, this will be 5 p.m. and then this will be again 6 p.m. We'll start right here for the next profile over here. Then we have the fixed range volume profile, as I showed you, where basically you can see there's like a light blue box on the back of this that means that I just put my profile to go from this point down to this point, and then that just formed the profile. And then we have just the periodic volume profile, which in this case, and I'm highlighting this background, this is Mondays, so this is a Forex chart 1 hour, and you can see this is basically weekly profiles, where every Monday we got a new profile, and then we got here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then Forex closes on the weekends, and then again a new profile starting on Monday covering the week, etc. So that's just different ways of seeing. And then, like I said, the last one, which would be the visible range volume profile, which is just a dynamic profile. For example, here we have a chart of Apple. This is a daily chart, and this profile that I have on the right side of the screen, it's basically just covering all the action that we had from this candles on the left side all the way to the end over here. And you can see the profile goes from the highest point that we had here to the lowest point that we had over here, and then just all the distribution. So you can see this big profile here. So that means that during this whole uptrend that we had here, you can see this huge volume profile with a point of control here. So that means this area here on this uptrend was the area that we accumulated the most volume. And you can see, even though it doesn't look like a lot, that means there was a ton of buying. Obviously it was buying pressure, because you can see this is clearly an uptrend. So a ton of volume was selling and buying and just pushing this up. Obviously the buyers won out on this one. And then you can see a smaller profile here for this sort of area that we had here, all this activity that we had at this point over here. Okay, and now I'm just gonna briefly show you here on the TradingView platform how we can find all the 4 different kinds of volume profile tools that we have here. Again, I'm gonna also show you how I use them in Sierra charts, but for that I'll do that later when I give you the walkthrough of the Sierra chart template that I use in a later lesson. So since TradingView is a pretty popular platform that almost everyone uses, it's probably a good idea to just show you how you can use it in here. Side note though, in order to use it here, you need to have at least a pro pay plan, because otherwise you will not have access to this volume profile tools. But it is still like pretty economical, so I definitely think it's worth it to try to get it. So if you go here under indicators and you go to built-ins, and then you have this option here, volume profile, you can see we have fixed range, session HD. These two are pretty much almost the same. Supposedly the HD just adapts more to when you zoom in and out and change the screen size, it'll just adapt more and be more dynamic. And then we have the visible range over here. Okay, so for the fixed range, I actually don't use this one, because the problem with this one is if you select this and you mark it on any chart and then you go and change symbols, this profile is still going to be there on any chart that you put. So what I use for the fixed range is this new drawing tool that they added, which is really great, which is down here, and you can find it, and it's called fixed range volume profile. So if I click on it, let's say I want to put a profile from the bottom here to the top here. So you can see I just drag it, click, and now I got my profile here. And this looks like this because this is like the preset that I had set for the screenshots that I had taken earlier. But you can just double click it and that'll bring up all the options. You can customize the colors, you can change the color of the POC, change what type of line. There's these options I don't really use, but basically this is showing you how the point of control was evolving. So you can see here, it's called developing point of control. So you can see how it started here. And then when we got to this point, the point of control shifted up here, stay here, and then in the end it shifted into here. So this is interesting just so you can sort of see how as volumes started accumulating more on top, then our point of control just starts shifting. And the same thing with the value area. You can see how we started here and then it just starts moving up and up until we finish here where we have our value area high here and the value area low over here. The histogram box, this is if you want to put like a background, so it's easy for you to like identify where you have the range marked, etc. Percentage, this is how wide you want it to be. It can be shorter, longer, etc. This is what time frames you want it to see. Coordinates, this is just where your two anchor points are. Style, the template, you can set whatever you want and then put save as and give it a name, and you can save all your presets. And then on inputs, see value area here, I have it set at 68, and then this I don't touch, just I leave it there. This I just leave it at number. And then row size, this changes how fine it looks. See, if I put 50, then it just gets a lot more blocky. So usually you want to go for a number that'll give you a nice smooth shape, but not like so fine that you just lose all like detail. Like here, this is a little too fine. So I think like 200 is like a nice balance. You can clear maybe even more, like 250. The main thing is you just want to be able to really identify high volume nodes and see where we have the little cuts in volumes, etc. Okay, so that is the fixed range profile tool, which you can find here. Then the second type that we talked about was the the periodic ones. TradingView doesn't unfortunately have a way of just setting like a preset profile to repeat itself every day or week, etc. So what I do for setting periodics is basically I take my profile tool and then I'll just go and let's say I want to do like a week. So I'll just go to where Monday is and I'll drag it 5 days. Then I can take another one and just repeat the same next Monday, drag it 5 days, etc. You know, this is different like ways that you can adapt to do that. Now let's go and see the next type, which would be the session volume profile. So let's put session HD. And so you can see how, let's go into a lower time frame so we can see this more clearly. So see, so here, this is basically a profile for every session. So every day at 6 p.m. Eastern, we got one starting, and at 6 p.m. Eastern the next day, it ends. So this is basically taking the whole day. Like I said, TradingView unfortunately does not let you for now split it into sessions. So, but if you put session HD, it will just show you the whole trading day. And I mean, you can use this for any market. Like I said, in regards to volume profile, you can apply it to anything, even like Australian. Let's say this is a SPOC Forex pair, and you can see how volume profile, you can check out also the free videos that I have on YouTube also, where I talk a lot about just the volume profile tool in general, etc. So that's very useful, even like we said in crypto, forex markets, etc. Just order flow is not going to be as good, but volume profile is really excellent in just any type of market. Okay, so that's session. So let's just take the session off. Or that was sorry, the session. We saw the fixed range. We saw the periodical. A little like trick also that I found that you can use too, if you want to try to do a split session profile on TradingView, is simply, again, go take your fixed range volume profile, and what you do is go to 6 p.m. and take the profile and then go look at the time down here and just extend this to 9:30, and then grab a new one, put it at 9:30, and extend it all the way to the end of the day at 4:55, basically the last candle at like 5 p.m. almost. And so here now you have one whole day of trading, and you have a profile for the extended trading hours and a profile for the regular trading hours. So that's like a little trick, but like I said, the bad thing is, you're gonna have to be manually extending this profile. There's no like preset or option to have this just keep applying itself in the future and keep just dividing the sessions. So you just gotta be manually doing that. Okay, and then the last type of profile, which I already have in here, so I'm not gonna, but is the visible range. You go to indicators, build-ins, volume profile, visible range, and so you can see here. Let me zoom out into a 1 hour chart, and if I go here, it's called BPVR. I have it hidden, but if I put show, this is my visible range profile. As you can see, I don't have it split into value area, and I don't have the point of control highlighted because obviously I know it's just the furthest out point. But again, on the settings, 68% value area, I have it set at 200 rows. Then over here, like if I wanted to put a POC, I can just mark it here, and you can see it's right at the point that is sticking out the most. If I wanted to like just mark the value area, I could just go and do like this, and now I would have 68% value area, and this will be the outsides, the outer areas in here. And so this profile, you can see as I move the chart, this profile is just dynamically adapting to whatever is on the screen at that time, and it's just like changing shape as I go, taking into account all the volumes that were traded there. Okay, so that's pretty much all the types of volume profiles that you're mostly going to be using, and this is just how you would put them in in TradingView. And as I said, I'll just show you later on how I use this also in Sierra Chart. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the basic elements of the volume profile. In the next lesson, we're going to go specifically and talk more about the different, what we can infer from the different shapes of the profiles that we can encounter, specifically applying it mostly to the session profiles, because like we said, we're going to focus on day trading on this course. So the intraday session profiles are going to be our number one kind of profile that we're going to be using in our analysis for our strategy and our trading here. Okay, so with this, I'll just leave you, and I will see you all in the next lesson.